Ask Dan Schneider. Andrea asks me, what do I think of literary critic Harold Bloom? Well, I've tackled this issue many times. One of my very first essays, if not the very first essay that I wrote for Cosmoetica, was on Harold Bloom. I think he's basically an idiot, a moron, an ignoramus, and you can quote me on that. This doesn't mean he's a bad person. He just doesn't have a clue about what art is about, what literature is about. His most famous idea is something called the anxiety of influence, and that's basically that all new current artists struggle with the past because they struggle to try to aim to be equal of a Shakespeare or a Mozart or a Goya or whatever, who's the top guy in their field or the presumed top guy. You know, by that reckoning, any new band nowadays would have to struggle with trying to top the Beatles or Led Zeppelin. I think that's a lot of bunkum. I don't think any artist really thinks like that. Sure, when I was a kid, I thought, I can write poems. I can write poems better than Walt Whitman, but I had no anxiety about it. I knew I couldn't do it then, but I knew if I worked at it, I could write poems as good as Walt Whitman. I could be a greater poet than Walt Whitman. And I think that while there are some people that may fall into that category, most artists don't. And that's because most artists don't even think about the outside, what came before them. Most artists think about their own present, and in this me first, me decade, or me century kind of approach, most artists just think about, I've got something to say. So there is no anxiety because what they're saying is quote unquote unique, even if it really isn't unique. I could go on, for 2 hours talking about Harold Bloom and his ignorant opinions. I've talked before about how his conflation of Sylvia Plath and Anne Sexton with Maya Angelou as poets, shows his utter idiocy and paternalistic biases. He knows nothing of poetry. He could not tell you what a great poem is. His oversimplification and adoration of William Shakespeare is so out of touch with reality, it's laughable. If I put, for example, my American Sonnets 154, which have some congress with William Shakespeare's 154 sonnets, and gave it to him and said, why are my sonnets so much better? Why does Shakespeare have maybe 7 to 12 great sonnets where you could be hard-pressed to find 7 to 12 sonnets of my American sonnets that aren't great? Why? Why is that so? He could not do that because look at poetry or any art form of itself. He's the one who suffers from an anxiety of influence because he's using the tools that other people have used in the past and failed at using. So anyway, my opinion of Harold Bloom, idiot, moron, nincompoop. That's it.